consumers are thinking twice about what they buy. Products now known to contain horse meat have been taken off the shelves.
The king of beers, Budweiser,
is the king of beers shortchanging its subjects?
Of course, those that have the power to issue money, governments and banks. They haven't had to do anything productive, they just create money.
We are doing it again. I'm Darin Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
And I'm Monica Solmark.
Thank you, Monica Solmark, for joining us from ProHealthNow.com. See, I got it right that time. That was awesome,
really
right?
good that
You get a gold star.
Absolutely. Special pat.
We're doing it. We're talking about food, and we're talking about food matters right now. You're tuned in to Out of the Box Thinking right here, broadcasting from Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. Okay, so we're going to cover a little bit of background here on food matters, and let's run a quick clip about a 75-year-old.
Against the most evil corporation in the world.
Case of David versus Goliath.
I don't know that, but I could see nothing, what I done was wrong.
75-year-old Vernon Hugh Bowman, an Indiana farmer, up against Monsanto, an agricultural giant that owns more than half of the world's seed market. The case has come all the way to the Supreme Court. Monsanto claims Bowman violated the company's patent on soybeans, genetically modified to resist this weed killer. At the heart of the case being considered by the Supreme Court is just how far Monsanto's patent can go. The company says the seeds can't be reused once the crop has grown, but farmers worry that Monsanto has a monopoly over the seed market for generations to come. It's a case with wide-reaching implications. From technology to medicine, researchers and businesses are keeping a close eye on what the case could mean for control over their patents.
This is about whether people are going to be able to afford to farm and afford to eat.
But so far, it appears that the Supreme Court is leaning toward Monsanto, citing that the law prohibits making copies of a patented invention. With Monsanto pumping millions of dollars into lobbying Washington, and with the backing of the Obama administration, it seems for Bowman and small farmers like him, the fight for their farms will be an uphill battle. In Washington, Liz Wall, RT.
So it's another 75-year-old standing up against the Monsanto Corporation. Reminds me of Percy Schmeiser.
Yeah, Canadian hero of mine.
Yeah, total Canadian hero. If you're not familiar with GMOs and the effects of them, look up Percy Schmeiser, the most unassuming hero that I've ever met.
That's right.
Okay, coming up, what do we got?
Well, we're going to be talking about the questionable food substances going on over in the UK. Or in the EU, sorry.
And we're going to talk about some other things that major news is not carrying, like beer getting watered down.
No.
Yes, it's true. Beer getting watered down. Hang on a second, I know. Brace yourself.
Nothing secret.
Only adults 21 and older for today's show. Okay, let's run this, and we'll be right back after this from our sponsor.
At Burger King, we know you can't eat burgers every day. That's why we're proud to introduce our mouth-watering new Philly cheesesteak, using only the finest thinly sliced sautéed meat and melted cheese, with grilled onions and sautéed mushrooms. Hey, when it comes to our new Philly cheesesteak, we don't horse around.
Tastes great!
Hurry, the Philly cheesesteak is only available at Burger King for a limited time.
No, that's not our sponsor.
No. But that's a
No
very
horsing
clever.
around.
That's a very clever ad. Makes me kind of hungry.
It does. Yeah. Sheep are nervous
like a
too.
thoroughbred.
Okay, so that's the UK. Okay, yeah. And what they're talking about is a serious problem. Yes,
it is a serious problem.
All right. So, well, let's run the news story and then mock the British abjectly. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
The discovery of horse meat disguised as beef in burgers and lasagnas has kicked off a crisis. Emergency summits have been convened in the UK and France, and the race is on to find the source of what one British minister called an international criminal conspiracy. At supermarkets like this one, up and down the country, consumers are thinking twice about what they buy. Products now known to contain horse meat have been taken off the shelves. But as we await further DNA tests, no one can be sure what's in their food. So what do the shoppers on London's Old Kent Road think of the scandal?
I think it's brilliant.
Why do you
Because for years people have been conned by this horrible, you know, pie, rubbish food, absolute rubbish food, let's be honest.
Some of the more regular ready meal eaters aren't too fussed or think consumers can't afford not to buy bargain basement food.
Some people are on low income, so I don't think they will stop buying cheap, you know. They will still buy.
The rising cost of food may be one reason why the horse meat got in the supply chain in the first place. Chains have got much more complex as companies switch suppliers to save every last penny. Brits may find horse meat a bit distasteful, but so far nothing has been found that could actually harm your health. However, that doesn't mean it won't damage the market. Food companies now have to strike a careful balance between rebuilding trust while making sure they don't push their prices too high. Meanwhile, politicians will not escape the line of fire as people ask why the regulators did not catch the runaway horse. Hannah Kushler, Financial Times, London.
Okay, so I mean, bad fun. That was terrible.
That was terrible. But you know why we don't eat horses instead of cows?
Why?
Because cows are so much easier to catch.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. We're talking about, while the thing is running, we're talking about cultural differences. Okay, where Japan eats horses.
Yeah.
And Korea.
It's a delicacy.
Yeah. Yeah, quite a lot of people throughout Asia.
Yeah. Okay. Also eating cats and dogs. Those are different things that people have in different cultures. You know,
eating insects.
Okay. Yeah. Insects, grubs, excellent form of protein that would never, ever be considered palatable
Have
here.
you noticed there's been a bit of a horse meme in the news lately, though?
I know. Okay. There's sort of like
you
this.
You know, Ann Romney, Mitt Romney's wife, and he was running a horse at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant that she looked like a horse.
I wouldn't say that.
So you know why they run so fast, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, so we're talking about the way that they're starting to adapt to the fact that accountants are demanding more profit from every company.
That's right.
Okay, now if you take a look at Generation Jobless on the CBC, you'll see the way that it's devastating the job market by them downsizing and demanding more profit. Budweiser.
Oh, the king of beers.
Oh,
okay,
no.
This is
Not
a physical
Budweiser.
thing. Yes, it's true.
No.
Okay, strap yourself in, and only people over the age of 21 may cry during this.
A class action lawsuit that has the attention of a lot of Americans. It is about beer. The charge is that Budweiser allegedly watered down some of its beer. The company says no. ABC's Lindsay Janis tells us more.
The king of beers, Budweiser.
Is the king of beers shortchanging its subjects? Lawsuits filed in 4 states are accusing Anheuser-Busch of being, well, buzz killers. The legal filings say Anheuser-Busch is falsely representing the alcohol content of its products by watering down their beers by as much as 8% of the amount stated on the label. The lawyer representing the allegedly betrayed beer drinkers says he has more than a dozen former Anheuser-Busch employees that say they witnessed or were involved in the process.
As it's running down the line to go into bottles and cans, they add water to it to dilute it below the stated alcohol content on the label.
The whistleblowers haven't come out publicly and no tests have been performed. But these lawyers have won cases against corporate giants before. Anheuser-Busch called the claims completely false and groundless.
Beer drinkers are a very loyal crowd. It may make them question things.
Maker's Mark learned that the hard way. Public outcry forced it to change course after announcing it would dilute its trademark bourbon. Posting on its website, quote, "You spoke, we listened."
Unlike wine, where you can have a bad year, the brewers have to be consistent and put out the same thing over and over.
And if Anheuser-Busch wants its customers to be consistent, it'll need to convince them they can trust what's inside. Lindsay Janis, ABC News, New York.
So we're not allowed to tell the joke about
what American beer is like. I mean, I don't know what they're so well, I know what they're so upset about. Watering down your beer. That's not a very nice thing for Anheuser-Busch to be doing. Of course, they vehemently are denying that.
Yes.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've known they watered down beer since I was 20.
Yeah.
Like all the Americans come up and say, "Hey, we love your beer."
Yes, because it actually has alcohol content.
But there's 8% less than is shown on the label for the alcohol content, though.
Labeling.
Yeah, I know. Who's watching the watchers? But, the Americans having watered down beer like that, that is a sign of the economy.
Yeah.
Okay, and if they're nickel and diming their own people over their own beer.
Aren't brewers making enough money already?
Haven't they made enough money?
Well,
seriously, recession-proof? Like, what else could you ask for?
Yeah.
There's only like 3 brewers in the States anyway. There's Busch, Coors, and what's the other one? I don't know what the other one is.
Well, watch Prohibition from PBS, and you'll get an insight into how the beer business works and what we're faced with right now, why we see Schlitz. I want to run this real quick.
One more food story here.
A new study has exposed a fishy little secret that may have you thinking twice next time you order that bluefin tuna. The conservation group Oceana reports as much as 1/3 of all the seafood in the U.S. is mislabeled, according to FDA guidelines. DNA testing of seafood samples collected from more than 600 restaurants and supermarkets in 21 states showed that cheaper, less desirable types of fish are often passed off as the more expensive types like grouper, cod, and snapper fish. The worst culprit? Sushi restaurants, with 74% serving the wrong menu item. Grocery stores, on the other hand, proved to be the most reliable, with a mere 18% doling out mislabeled fish from behind the counter. Snapper, salmon, swordfish, same species, right? The study suggests unknowingly eating the wrong fish can actually be quite the detriment to your health. The study, for example, identified several fish, including king mackerel and tilefish, which were sold to consumers who believed they were getting red snapper and halibut. Both tilefish and king mackerel contain mercury levels so high the FDA advises pregnant women and children not to eat them. The study's chief author told the New York Times part of the problem is that it's hard to decipher between the appearance of most fish species. Even a relatively educated consumer couldn't look at a whole fish and say, I'm sure that's a red snapper and not a lane snapper. So how are these fishy fakes swimming by regulators? The Washington Post points out the FDA tests less than 1% of U.S. sold seafood for fraud, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration doesn't have the resources to spare for testing of its own. Oceana does not list the names of the restaurants or stores that serve the fraudulent fish because it's unclear where the mislabeling began, the wholesaler, the retailer, or on the fishing boats themselves. On the bright side, only 7% of salmon was mislabeled. Buyer beware, as they say.
So we're here to urge you to be confident and to question your fish.
Question your food. I mean, the meat, the beer, and the fish.
Yeah, something
what else can go
fishy.
wrong?
Yes, what else could go wrong?
How about bringing it back to the local source?
If you buy from local farmers, you're going to solve all those problems. Please pay attention to the previous segment. I'm Darin Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
And I'm Monica Solmer.
Please check out Monica at prohealthnow.com.
Good job, Darin. Good job.
And we'll be right back.
Since 1971, when President Nixon took the United States off what was left of the gold standard, the world has operated under a system of money called fiat. The dollar, the pound, the euro are all government fiat currencies. Fiat is a Latin word meaning let it be so. It is the law that this government currency be money. Indeed, without that legal enforcement, and the fact that we must pay taxes in this money, that dollar bill or that computer digit that represents a dollar would be pretty much meaningless. Only the government has the power to issue fiat money, but banks can create it through lending. If somebody wants to borrow $10, a bank can create it from nowhere and lend it. It can then charge interest. Banks also create money by lending against an asset, such as a house. They're given the deeds to the house, and they create the money out of nowhere and lend it, at interest, of course. But who benefits? Of course, those that have the power to issue money, governments and banks. They haven't had to do anything productive, they just create money. However money is created, be it through lending, fractional reserve banking, financial bailouts, or old-fashioned money printing, banks are always at or near the top of the money-issuing pyramid. In reality, this process of creating money only redistributes wealth from the bottom to the top of the pyramid. And thus that ever-increasing gulf between rich and poor gets bigger and bigger and bigger.